The Art of Self-Affirmation: How Creative Expression Heals and Empowers Black Women. 3 years ago, I had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Adrienne Hatton, a remarkable visionary whose work has fundamentally transformed how Black women approach self love and healing through creative expression. She isn't just creating products, she's igniting a revolution of self worth that ripples through communities, generations, and institutions. Adrienne stands as a lighthouse for those navigating the stormy waters of self doubt, particularly Black women who have been told in 1,000 subtle and not so subtle ways that they don't belong, aren't enough, or should make themselves smaller. Have you ever really listened to that voice inside your head? You know the one I'm talking about. That persistent narrator that either lifts you up or tears you down throughout your day. For many of us, especially Black women navigating spaces that weren't designed with them in mind, that internal soundtrack plays a continuous loop of doubt, a whisper that says, "You don't belong here. You're not enough. Who do you think you are?" I want you to pause for a moment. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and genuinely loved what you saw? Not just your appearance, but the entirety of who you are, your strength, your resilience, your unique gifts. For too many, that reflection comes with a chorus of criticism rather than celebration. But what Adrienne Hatton discovered and what she's taught countless others is that these narratives aren't fixed in stone. They can be rewritten one powerful affirmation at a time. I am worthy. I am enough. I belong in every room I enter. Simple words, yet utterly revolutionary when internalized. But here's what makes Adrienne's approach different and frankly brilliant. She understood that affirmations alone aren't enough. They need to be embodied, experienced, lived through creative expression. When I first encountered Adrienne's self love affirmation coloring book for Black women, I was struck by its beautiful simplicity and profound impact. Each page features intricate designs, specifically celebrating Black beauty and resilience, paired with powerful affirmations. But this wasn't just another adult coloring book gathering dust on a shelf. This was medicine, soul medicine, in a world where Black women face unique societal pressures that can chip away at self worth like water on stone. Adrienne created something radical, a space where the act of coloring becomes meditation, where creativity becomes healing, where representation becomes a revolution. One woman who used Adrienne's coloring book during a particularly stressful career transition told me, for 30 minutes each day, I would color and repeat these affirmations. By the third week, I noticed I was walking differently into meetings, standing taller, speaking with more conviction. The affirmations had become part of me. I wasn't just saying them anymore, I was living them. That's the thing about affirmations. They're not magic spells that instantly transform reality. They're seeds planted in the soil of our consciousness that, with consistent nurturing, grow into forests of self belief. The coloring book provides the perfect medium for this planting, a tactile, engaging experience that occupies the hands while programming the mind. The impact of this seemingly simple tool has been staggering. Local organizations have integrated similar approaches into support groups for young women. Mental health workshops feature the coloring book as a centerpiece for discussions about self worth. And the 5-star reviews from readers describe it as life changing during periods of transition or crisis. But Adrienne's genius didn't stop there. She recognized that different wounds require different medicines. After experiencing the pain of divorce herself, Adrienne created a divorce healing journal specifically designed for Black women navigating the end of a marriage. In many communities, divorce carries a heavy stigma, a scarlet letter of supposed failure. Add to that the intersectional realities faced by Black women, and you have a perfect storm of isolation and shame. Adrienne's journal offered something different, a companion for the journey, a place where grief could be honored rather than rushed, where shame could be replaced with compassion, where endings could be reframed as beginnings. One journal user wrote, "Before finding this journal, I felt like I was drowning in silence. No one in my church talked about divorce. My family expected me to be strong. This journal gave me permission to break down, to feel everything, and then to rebuild myself piece by piece." The journal blended poetic prompts with blank spaces, an invitation to pour out one's heart without judgment. And something remarkable happened. Women who used the journal reported reconnecting with passions they'd forgotten, reimagining futures they couldn't previously envision, finding strength not in spite of their vulnerability, but because of it. This is what happens when we create spaces for authentic expression, when we give ourselves permission to tell our stories without apology. As Maya Angelou wisely said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Adrienne's work embodies this truth. Through her poetry workshops across Texas, she created intergenerational spaces where vulnerability wasn't just allowed, it was celebrated. Where young writers of color found mentorship, where elders shared wisdom, where healing happened in community. One young participant in Adrienne's workshop said something that stays with me. "Before this, I thought being strong meant never showing weakness. Now I understand that true strength is having the courage to be seen fully, messily, honestly." These workshops weren't just about writing, they were about rewriting narratives of what strength looks like, rewriting expectations of what healing requires, rewriting the very definition of success to include wholeness, not just achievement. The impact rippled outward. Several participants went on to publish their own chapbooks or organize neighborhood open mics. Local arts councils recognized the workshops and funded additional programming for underrepresented storytellers. A movement was beginning, one poem, one journal entry, one affirmation at a time. This is the revolution Adrienne Hatton is quietly leading, a revolution of self love through creative expression, a revolution that understands that personal healing and community empowerment are inseparable. But let's be honest, in a world obsessed with productivity and external validation, taking time for self affirmation and creative expression can feel indulgent, unnecessary, a luxury we can't afford. I want to challenge that notion with every fiber of my being. What if self affirmation isn't self indulgence, but self preservation? What if creative expression isn't a distraction from real work, but the foundation that makes all other work possible? Research consistently shows that positive self talk and creative expression reduce stress, improve cognitive function, and enhance overall well being. For Black women navigating environments where they're often undervalued, these practices aren't optional, they're essential. As Audre Lorde powerfully stated, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. When Adrienne created her affirmation coloring book, she wasn't just making a pretty product, she was offering a tool for resistance. Resistance against internalized negativity, against societal messages that diminish Black women's worth, against systems that demand productivity at the expense of humanity. The transformation isn't always comfortable. Growth rarely is. One participant in Adrienne's poetry workshop admitted, The first time I was asked to share my writing, my hand shook so badly I could barely read the paper. By the end of the 8 weeks, I was organizing my own open mic nights. I found my voice by using it. That's the paradox of vulnerability. What feels like weakness becomes our greatest strength. So, what does this mean for you? How can Adrienne Hatton's work inform your own journey towards self affirmation and creative healing? First, recognize that the way you speak to yourself matters profoundly. The stories you tell about who you are and what you're capable of shape your reality more than you might realize. If your internal dialogue has become a critic rather than a cheerleader, it's time for an intervention. Start with one affirmation, just one. I am worthy of taking up space. My voice matters. I am exactly where I need to be. Choose words that feel slightly uncomfortable, not because they're untrue, but because you're not used to believing them yet. That discomfort is the growing edge of your self perception. Second, pair your affirmation with creative expression. You don't need to be artistic to benefit from creativity. Journal for 5 minutes each morning, doodle during meetings, dance in your kitchen, sing in your car. The form doesn't matter. What matters is creating a physical experience that anchors your affirmations in your body, not just your mind. Third, share your journey with others. Adrienne's work reminds us that healing happens in community. Find your people, those who will hold space for your growth, celebrate your victories, and remind you of your affirmations when you forget. I stand before you today, not just to share Adrienne Hatton's remarkable work, but to issue a challenge to reject the notion that self love is selfish, a challenge to embrace creative expression, not as a luxury, but as a lifeline. A challenge to see your affirmations not just as words, but as declarations of war against every force that has ever tried to diminish your light. Because when you change the stories you tell yourself, you change what you believe is possible. And when you change what you believe is possible, you change what actually is. This isn't just about feeling better, though that matters deeply. This is about reclaiming your power. This is about taking up space unapologetically in a world that too often asks you to shrink. This is about creating ripples that become waves, that become tsunamis of transformation. I invite you, no, I implore you to begin today. Choose one affirmation, write it down, speak it aloud, draw it, color it, dance it. Let it seep into your bones until it becomes as natural as breathing. And then watch what happens, not just within you, but around you. Watch how your transformed relationship with yourself transforms your relationships with others. Watch how your courage inspires courage. Watch how your healing catalyzes healing. This is your birthright. This is your revolution. This is your art of self affirmation. Thank you.